Hello, and welcome to the Eternal Witnesses podcast. This is your favorite competitive Magic the Gathering podcast, focusing on modern, legacy, and other Eternal formats. I am Dan Atkins, and I am joined with my favorite person from Detroit with the initials MM, probably the most famous person from Detroit with those initials, Michael Mapson. How are you doing?
I am good. Also, I don't know if you actually thought about it, but I'm definitely not the most famous person from Detroit
Can't
with
think
those
of
initials.
anyone else.
Okay, so you did think about it.
Yeah, so we're back for another episode, and just a reminder for all of you who are out there, either watching on YouTube or on Spotify or whatever other platform you have your podcast, to like and subscribe, because each week as we grow a little bit, it helps us just reach a few more people and just talk a little bit more about Magic. So we got a exciting episode today. We have some local events that we played in. We have some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards that we're going to talk about, which there's some very exciting ones, some ones that we didn't expect to see play that have been seeing play, which is cool. And then we'll go a little bit into some results from some big tournaments that happened recently. So that being said, local events. So at the end of the last episode, we mentioned there's a few 1Ks in the area, which is, we're really blessed to have that, honestly, to have a lot of support from the local game stores, specifically for Legacy. So there was one at Mainline Chess and Games, and it was a smaller event, but I went and played in it, which was a lot of fun. I ended up taking it down with my Esper Vial pile, which was a ton of fun. And then a little bit bigger event. So this past Saturday, we had a local 1K at Alternate Universes Bluebell. So that one had 35 people, which was great to see the turnout there. I know Maps and you played it in as well. We had a
I
lot
did.
of friends. It was cool to see everyone show up and show out for it. So how did you do in it?
Oh, before how I did, first, congrats for winning an event. I know you said it
Oh
was
yeah,
small, but like,
it was fun.
it's still nice.
Yeah.
I came home from my weekend and get on Goldfish to look at like the challenge results, and I see, I'm like, what's this? Dan Atkins in first place? Didn't
Yeah, it
even
was
say
fun.
anything.
It was fun. It was also one of those things where there's like somebody recommended, like, oh, let's do winner take all, and I never do that kind of thing because I'm always like, whatever, like we'll just play it out. But I was really feeling myself. I think that's what it was, and I was like, no, let's do it. And it, obviously the stakes were pretty small too, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And then it worked out. So I got
Oh, I didn't
myself,
realize that you did that.
yeah. So I got myself a nice new null rod and some overpriced Goblin Welders because they all jumped up for pre-modern, but I have them now. It worked out. That was fun.
So you asked how I did at the AU event.
Yeah.
I did not do nearly as well as I would have liked, but that's okay. I had a ton of fun. I played the blue-red sewer valence cam deck, which we're gonna get into more later, so I'm not gonna dive too deep into it.
Mhm.
Also, I talk all the time about, hey, I'm going to record a video, and then I don't. But I love this deck, so I am like actually going to record at least one, quite possibly multiple videos next week. I would have done
And you
it.
would see that on
Oh,
our YouTube channel,
yes,
Eternal
they
Witnesses.
would already be up, but life's been lifing, which Dan can agree because he
It
knows.
has indeed been lifing.
So I played the blue red cam deck. I went 3-3 and just had a delightful time. And I'm very excited to keep working on it and get some better results until maybe, maybe I can be like you, maybe I can win an event. But I'm sure for this event, you wanted to show some solidarity, right? And you didn't want to do better than me. You wanted to kind of stay the same level, right? So how
You
did the event go
know,
for you?
I think in my head I was just kind of assuming you were also going to do really well. So I was like, I got to keep up with Mapson. But did you have any like awesome plays or like moments that really stood out that you're like had like maybe the line was kind of weird that you took, or maybe ways that you lost that were like, I can't believe that happened. So there was something crazy that happened.
I'm sure there were. I don't usually I'm pretty good about remembering this kind of stuff. I
Hmm.
don't know how well I can actually remember it this time. I you know, I remember having a couple turn 2 kills, which is always nice because I mean if you untap with a welder, sometimes your opponent just dies even if it's only turn 2. So I think I had 2 turn 2 wins throughout the event. I had a turn where like I had like nothing and I got to resolved like a goblin engineer, put like a cauldron in my yard. I already had a skateboard in place. I got to give the engineer haste, use the engineer to bring back an Agatha soul cauldron that it bent. Soul cauldron to exile my welder, to like target the engineer, and then play a cam from my hand
Mm.
and go infinite. And it was just like I had none of the pieces in play when my opponent passed the turn. So like they tapped out thinking they're safe, and it's just like, and you're dead.
Well, so
Just
what was
from
your
nowhere.
win condition of choice? Because like you weren't playing painter, so you didn't have like grindstone to mill them out. Were you playing like Legion Extruder or like Goblin Sharpshooter or not Sharpshooter? What's the 2 mana one that you discard?
Twin
Twin
shot
shot.
sniper.
Yeah, that one.
Yes. And that is my killer choice. I was also
Okay.
playing the Phyrexian Devourer as the
Nice.
Soul Cauldron combo, which I won with that. The deck can also make an infinitely large Kappa Cannoneer, so I won
Sweet.
with that. Can also, let's see, what else can you do? Yeah, infinitely large Kappa. You can also just win with like Saga Beats, but I
Mhm.
didn't actually make a construct token throughout the entire day, which is like kind of insane to play 6 rounds with 4 Urza Sagas in your
Yeah.
deck and never get to make a construct once.
I feel like that just like shows how much like either it's a really bad sign, which maybe it was, or it shows up like how much you could do with the deck that like you have a plan A, you have a plan B. I feel like you have like 6 different plans you could do in the deck, and like all of them are pretty viable and like could end up winning a game. But like constructs is like somewhere in those 6 plans that may not actually end up going because like you have to actually have like pretty much nothing going on. It's like, all right, I'll make some constructs, and they're going to be like 6/6s or 7/7s, but like you could also be casting Kappa Cannoneer instead, or Emissary, or doing Goblin Welder stuff. It's like there's just so many choices.
Yeah, so what it actually meant was I think 5 of my opponents played Wasteland, and my
Okay,
sixth opponent
maybe you did have a choice.
died on turn 2 in game 1, and
Hmm.
then also I was going to make a construct in game 2, and then I drew a card that killed my opponent instead, so I opted to do that.
That's fair. I guess sometimes you just want the game over. I wouldn't know
Yeah.
the feeling, but yeah. Yeah, so I ended up top fouring this event, which was a lot of fun. Again, I was playing Espervile, which if you're interested in the deck I played, I have a Mox Field for Dr. Katkin. I assume it's under that name. Or if you just find Espervile decks on Mox Field, it'll probably show up. But it I definitely came prepared for facing off against like painter or welder piles because our local meta is full of painter players. Like if you show up on any given Friday for an FNM, there's probably going to be like 4 painter players in a room
I
of 20
wouldn't say
people.
4.
I don't know. Sometimes there's like 6, and it's crazy. It's like
I
4 painter players and then like 4 or 5 like white, like either death and taxes or energy players. Usually a lot of dreadnought. It's quite the meta. But yeah, but I was playing, Felia, Blink. I had some Clarion Conquerors in my sideboard, some Wrath of Skies, and I did not
You
play against
monster.
Painter the entire time. Let me actually bring up real quick. I have what I played against. All right, so I started off against Lands, which is usually a pretty good matchup.
Same.
Because I think were we next to each other? Well, there's actually quite a few lands players, I think, at this event, which was interesting. But like I have like a lot of white removal spells, plus Feli can just attack and, blink at Merit Lage or a construct token. Plus I have Wasteland and Krakus in my deck. It ends up being pretty difficult for the lands deck to get things going. But then at round 2, I played against a Lurentel, which we had spent a lot of time previously talking about how good that deck is, and it was good. So like typically my matchup's pretty good because like they're putting the Lurn to play and I can put a Recruiter and kind of tutor up my entire deck. But if they just have, turn 2 show and tell into a Lurn with force backup, sometimes they just have it. So, but it ended up being an interesting matchup. Then I played against my friend Kevin on Black Green Depths, which is another Merit deck. I played against Reanimator, which, to be fair, I got really lucky this round, which sometimes you got to get lucky to do well in tournaments. You just got to put yourself in the spot that, it works out for you. And then I played against a mono red sneak attack deck, which I was not expecting, but it was really scary because they just went like a seething song on turn 2. And I was like, I am so dead, whatever they're doing. Ended up having a sneak attack into I think it was like the third or the fourth threat that actually killed me, which, because like Source of Plowshares is usually fine to deal with it, but when they put in Atraxa and they just like fight another threat, then eventually I run out of answers to it, which is
Yeah,
basically what
so
happened.
story about the mono red sneak attack deck. He played against Billy in round three,
Hmm.
and man, he just like was able to resolve Palantir of Hornthink, and then like
Oh, yeah.
scryed cards to the bottom, and then just domed Billy for was it 18? It's like, okay, well, I guess the game's over. Just
He
like
was playing the
casual turn
other
two, take 18.
3 mana artifact that uh,
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil, yeah, he was playing that as well, which like I think it was game 3 perhaps. Like I just kind of let it resolve because I was like, I can probably deal with this by the time it actually ends up mattering because he didn't have a lot of mana at the time. And it looked really good. Eventually, I could kill it with a witch enchanter, but it could have been very scary if he was a little bit luckier at hitting monsters. But he ended up like flipping 3, and it was like only a Simian Spirit Guide or something, and it was like, oh, thank goodness. So I won that one, and then drew the last round into top 8. Then I played against Blue Black Tempo in top 8, which is one of the reasons I like playing the deck. Is especially when there's a deck like Blue Black Tempo that's really popular, you just have a decent match out there. Source of Plowshares, really good card. And then I played against Mono Red Prison in the semifinals. So this is our friend Jeremy, who took down the whole event. He went undefeated with Mono Red Prison. Kudos to him. He kind of crushed the event. It was great. I am not a fan of Mono Red Prison, but I'm a fan of Jeremy. So it was all good to see him win. Happy to see him. But he actually had an interesting take on the deck. So you see sometimes they have initiative creatures and some other, payoffs, but he was running 4 Hexing Squelcher, which is scary, especially when they have multiple Hexing Squelcher in play at a time. Then just to like Source of Plowshare is one thing, it's 4 life, which is rough. But also 4 Screaming Nemesis, which is also really scary because it's just a hasty threat. And then if you ever block, then you just like can't gain life for the rest of the game. So that was pretty scary. And also shout out to our friend Leland, who made it to the finals with Mono Green Post, and was doing really well there too.
Yeah, this event was, I mean, granted, it's a local event, so like obviously there's a bit of bias,
Hmm.
but I was really happy. There was like 5 heroes in the top 8.
Yeah, yeah. Evan
So
was
it
there
was
too.
like,
Akalith is with
yeah.
Black White Depths. He did really well.
So yeah, people probably know Evan from his stream. He streams on Thursdays and Sundays under Akaleth on Twitch. Our friend George, who
Hmm.
goes by Whiffy Penguin on YouTube, he top aided with Cam, which he and I have been texting almost every day about playing playing Cam in some variety or another. Leland, you, Jeremy, and then also one of the Preety brothers made it.
Hmm.
They're pretty cool. I don't remember who the other 2 in top 8 were, but it was just like there was a lot of people who could have won this event, and I would have been happy. Granted, I did tell you like a week ago I wanted you to win so that you could win back-to-back weeks and it'd be
Yeah,
sweet. So really, it was a little bit disappointing that somebody else won. And I'm also, it makes me question our friendship that you would let me down like that. But
yeah. No, I tried my hardest. The real problem though came with when I was playing against Jeremy. I did not realize he had the One Ring in his deck, which obviously I should have realized he had it. He has Ancient Tomb. He probably has the One Ring, but I didn't see it at all for the first 2 games. I was like, all right, he probably doesn't have it. Maybe he's just on like more creatures or something else. So I sided out my whole creatures, and sure enough, I died to the One Ring in game 3. So, um, it was close. It was close, but he also just played really well too. But um, yeah, so that was a fun local tournament. I love playing some local tournaments, especially when we get like 30 people out. It's just like you're hanging out with all the people there. You see all the friends. The meta's always pretty fun, and I saw a lot of different decks, which was pretty cool. Which kind of brings us into our next segment, looking at new cards from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you already talked about you were playing Sewer Balance Cam and Skateboard in your deck.
heck yeah, I was.
Yeah, which looked really impressive. I know like George was also playing a Sewer Balance Cam Painter deck, which like yeah he made top 8 as well. So like it looks really promising. But that's 2 different takes. So like you're not playing Painter, he is playing Painter. What was your thought between like picking the non-Painter deck, or like different ways that you thought that was like the best payoff or the payoff you wanted to explore? with Surveillance Cam?
Yeah. So first, I guess we're just kind of assuming that people know what surveillance cam
That's a good
says,
point.
um, which people probably should. But if you don't, here is surveillance cam. I have it pulled up on the screen for you if you're watching on YouTube. It costs a single blue. It's an artifact that has flash. Whenever this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, you may tap or untap target creature. You can pay 3 and a blue to sacrifice this artifact and draw 2 cards. This card is really good. It combos with my favorite card, Goblin Welder. I assume people actually do know what Goblin Welder says, but if you don't, it's a little red guy, costs a single red mana, and you can tap him to choose a target artifact, or you have an, or sorry, choose target artifact a player controls and a target artifact in that player's graveyard. And then if both targets are still legal as this ability resolves, you simultaneously sacrifice that artifact and return that other artifact to the battlefield. So you just swap the position. So with Goblin Welder, you can weld a surveillance cam in and out of play, and every time it goes in or out, it untaps the welder, so you can just keep going. So I pair this with Twin Shot Sniper, which when it enters, it deals 2 damage, so you can deal infinite damage. You can pair it with Legion Extruder, which does the same thing. If it is paired with a Mox Opal or any of the artifact lands, it generates infinite mana, which you can then use to draw cards with the surveillance cam. Because anytime you draw a new artifact, you can keep the trend going, plus any artifact you have in play. So you can more or less draw through your entire deck, and you should be able to figure out something at that point.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can just kind of do all sorts of silly things. If you are playing with like Painter, then you obviously have Grindstone. So you can also just like, you can grind them out because you can make infinite mana and then you can put Grindstone in and out of play and tap it. You can do all kinds of things. I think both versions are very good, but I think they lead you to building in different ways. I think if you play with Painter Servant, you are incentivized to play with Ancient Tomb, which is obviously a very strong card. I don't think anybody is saying Ancient Tomb isn't good, but I think it does kind of affect the way that you have to build your deck and build your mana base. The Painter combo is very expensive, and I also think the Painter combo and the Welder combo are kind of weak to some of the same things. Not all of the same things, but weak to definitely some of the same things. I played a version without Painter, and I played heavier in blue, so I got to include Emery in my deck. I got to play Pinnacle Emissary and Kappa Cannoneer, and I think that those cards provide a great backup plan. I was very high on Agatha's Soul Cauldron because Welder is very fragile. It dies to everything. But
Hmm.
when you get to put that ability on more things, that kind of like it just makes it so easy for you to combo. And Pinnacle Emissary also helps that because it gives you more bodies to put things on. So I was, I'm a little bit more all in on that version, but it's also just so redundant. Like I had games where, the games might go on a while, but it was like every turn, up, depending on what I draw, you're just dead here. And it
Hmm.
wasn't like, well, I hit it. It was like, hey, I have a lot of draws where you just die and this game just ends and there's nothing you can do about it. Um, it felt really good. I really like both versions. So definitely, if you want to know more about the Painter version, our friends over on Eternal Horizons did
Hmm.
a great podcast about it this past week. I would highly recommend checking them out. If you want to know more about the painterless builds, again, I'm going to try to have a video out next week. And also, we mentioned our friend George earlier. Him and I have talked a lot about it. Our schedules don't line up great, but we may try to do like a video together, like talking more about the differences. Who knows if our schedules will line up for it to happen, but maybe that will be a thing. Who knows?
Yeah, and I know he also posts some videos of the deck as well on his YouTube.
Yes, another great resource.
Yeah, for a lot of Painter. Yeah, so the deck is pretty crazy in Legacy, especially the Painter. It reminds me a lot of Breakfast and how it relies on Goblin Welder, a 1/1 creature, similar to how Breakfast relies on, 2 different 1/1 creatures, or 1 and a Shuko. But in the sense that it's a graveyard creature combo deck that is relatively fragile because it relies on a creature being in play and your graveyard being intact, not having a Leyline in the Void or Rest in Peace in play. But whereas Breakfast, once you combo, you can do it as soon as the creature comes into play, so you don't have to rely on summoning or on haste. to get around Summoning Sickness. But you're all in. You're milling your entire graveyard. You're flashing back. Your Dread returns. You have to play cards like Narcomoebas and your Nomads and Cores, and then these like very medium to bad cards, but you just win the game right away. This painter or non-painter, but any of the Goblin Welder Sewer Balance Cam decks, they feel very resilient in the sense that like, yes, you're going for the combo to end the game and win, but if you're disrupted, it's fine. You're just kind of like, all right, I'll move on to the next thing, or I'll rebuild, I'll play another one, and you just kind of go again in the next turn or the turn after, which is cool to see. It really feels like it's like just the right level for Legacy, which is cool. Like, it's not like one of these other combo decks like you see Nadu when it came in, or like Underworld Breach. Not saying these are the same power level, but like these decks, like they come in and they're immediately like crazy power, like crazy powerful, and like, like, that is probably going to get banned at some point. This deck, I feel like this is great. Like, it's really cool. It has some really interesting interactions. You can tell that there's probably some build that's going to be the optimal build, or maybe there won't be because there's so many options. And it's like you could play whichever one you want, and there's going to be some merit to playing one or the other. But yeah, it's a really cool strategy. Plus, I appreciate how it's a strategy that has clear ways to interact with it. Like, that's one of the reasons I didn't like Nadu so much, is because it was a creature combo deck, but interacting was so difficult, because even if you had something like Dampening Matrix or something that turned off activated abilities of creatures, there was still like, even if just killing the Nadu gave your opponent a card, where this you could play like a Clarion Conqueror, and it just kind of like, all right, I don't have to worry about that until they bolt it or abrade it or something, and then you move on. But it's a really cool strategy, which I like. I'm excited to see more of it. I probably won't play it myself as much, though I think I just need 2 more Sewer Van scams. Maybe I'll give it a try one of these times, but
You should give it
I'm
a try.
play
It's
against it a
so
lot.
fun. It's
Yeah.
so fun. I
Yeah.
mean, Goblin Welder is legitimately my favorite creature ever printed, so I am perhaps biased. And I don't think that's a thing people knew about me. It's funny.
Mhm.
Everybody thinks it's like Primeval Titan or Nadu, which, like, to be fair, are good guesses. Some people thought it was Painter Servant, which also reasonable guess, but like Goblin Welder is so sick.
Which is, it kind of leads into like my favorite card is Gilded Drake. And one of my favorite ways to interacting with Painter was if I would steal their Goblin Welder with my Gilded Drake, which means they can't combo usually, or makes it very difficult for them to combo. It usually doesn't line up super well because they just like red blasted it. But that was always a really fun interaction where they try to combo and he's like, nope, just swap it out. Yeah. Sewer Valence, really cool in Legacy. A few other Teenage Mutant Ninja cards that we saw in Legacy. There's Raph and Mikey. So let me see if I can pull up a Raph and Mikey to explain what it does.
I got it.
Sweet. Look at you prepared. Yeah, so Raph and Mikey, troublemakers. So this is a 7-drop. So 5, then hybrid red green for a 7/7. Trample haste. Whenever it comes in, or whenever it attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. And then you can put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and the rest at the bottom of your library in random order. So this saw play in a Sneak and Show list, which was pretty cool. So it's just kind of like another big beater, and then you like sneak attack into play, where it flips an Emrakul, which then attacks for another 15. I believe you don't get the Annihilator trigger,
That is correct.
but you still are attacking for 22, which is probably enough to just kill your opponent anyway. Or an Atraxa, which then gives you those 10 cards, which, I mean, it's just another big threat, which is cool. I saw this in a Reanimator list as well. Similar to, there was that big dragon that you really liked that some
Yes.
Reanimator lists were playing. It's very, very similar vibes to that, right? Where it's just a big fatty that gives you more big creatures.
Yeah, you flip this into that, and then you get that trigger too. Duh. Yeah, this card's great. It's showing up in some Goryo's list as well, because it comes in and you get the art, like you flip until you hit an Archon of Cruelty, and
Mhm.
you get the Archon of Cruelty trigger, and it's attacking. And yes, you don't get the trigger the second time, but yeah, if you creativity for 1, and then all of a sudden you're attacking them for 13, and they have essentially 19, and they have to discard a card and sack a thing, like that's
Mhm. It's
pretty good
probably
use of
lethal.
4 mana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like similar, like it's in Neo form as well. I've seen it in the modern lists. But something I actually just thought about is it has haste. So you can actually just show and tell this into play. And then it's very similar to having that like sneak attack effect where you don't have to pass the turn, because a lot of times like show and tell is not great because you put in your Emrakul and you pass the turn and your opponent like I don't know, either wins or just has an answer to it. But this, you don't have to pass the turn a lot of times, depending on what you hit off the top. So this is kind of a cool effect. Haste is very strong, as we see with skateboard.
Can I tell you I beat multiple Emrakuls the past week by just like opponent goes show and tell, or maybe they go sneak attack,
Mhm.
and then I go sewer valence cam, tap it,
Let's go.
untap, you're dead.
Which is like such a turnaround from playing Painter against like an Emrakul deck where like you have to go through so many hoops to like exile it out of their graveyard as you're trying to mill them, to now just being like, I don't care. My little 1/1 camera could beat your giant 15/15 spaghetti monster. Yeah,
Yeah, it makes
that's got to
sense.
be a nice feeling.
We have mentioned skateboard multiple times, and we haven't said what it does. I'm assuming people know, but if you don't, it is a 1 mana artifact, and it's an equipment. And when it enters, you tap target permanent, which you can tap any permanent. It doesn't have to be creature. You can tap their lands. You can tap their creatures. You can tap whatever. You can tap your own stuff for some reason, if that makes sense. A neat thing is if they have a Trinisphere that is messing you up, maybe you're on Affinity, maybe you're on Mono Black Saga Storm,
Mhm.
you can tap their Trinisphere and that turns it off. If you're on the Cam deck, a neat thing is if they have an one of the artifacts that hits graveyards, whether it's Soul Guide Lantern, Tormod's Crypt, most of them, not Relic,
Mhm.
basically anything that's not Relic of Progenitus, they all tap to exile. So you can have that enter, tap their thing. They either have to use it or they can't use it for the turn. And then you can graveyard combo them after they have lost access to it. Then it also gives your creature +1/+0 and haste. So it's very similar to Lava Spur Boots by giving the +1/+0 and haste, but rather than ward, it taps something down, which I think so far has proven to be way better. Because also, even if you're just like on the construct, I'm going to kill you plan, like, yes, the ward could matter when your opponent's like not paying attention, but removing a blocker while you're giving your guy haste is insane.
Yeah, that's really strong. This has come up like I play Baleful Strix, and I usually am fine just leaving a Baleful Strix back if they make a bunch of like Urza Saga constructs or a giant 2020. Like I feel fine usually because I could just block it and then buy myself a turn. But having it tapped, it feels so bad. Or my Caracas, and then they have a 2020. Yeah, this deck has been, or this card specifically has been really good. I think it's actually probably the card that is seeing the most play, just because it's
100%.
so uniform. Like it just kind of fits in every spot. Every Urza Saga deck wants it, or was already playing Swift Spirit, it just or Lava Spur Boots, and it just slots this right in. So it's just kind of a cool little card that is, again, it's just a little uncommon. Is Sewer Valence a common or an uncommon?
It's a common.
Okay. But that'll see. I wonder if that'll see play in Pauper. I'm sure it
I
will.
believe it has already.
Mhm.
The other thing with skateboard seeing a bunch of play is it's also just like the most obvious card we've had in quite some time, right? Because
Mhm.
there's such an easy direct comparison. And I think it's pretty clear to most people that this card is just a better version of that card we're already playing. And I don't think it's, I mean, obviously there are situations where, actually, I don't even want to say there's situations where you want the other one.
Yeah.
Like there really aren't. And I think it's rare that we get such a clear upgrade like this.
Would you ever play like Lava Spur Boots over a second skateboard? Or would you still just want two skateboards first?
I think I would just want two skateboards. And I can say, spoiler for anyone who wants to listen to that Eternal Horizons episode that I mentioned, they actually talked about that. Callum tried a skateboard and a lava spur boots to kind of see like if there was ever a time where he wanted the other, and he said every time he just wanted it to be skateboard.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially when you're doing welder shenanigans and you can just tap all of your opponent's permanents on their upkeep, like an opposition type effect, which
Oh
is
yeah, I
just
won a game
another
with
way of
that
winning.
too last
Brutal.
week.
Your opponent's probably sitting there with like a Rathos Geist in hand and just can never cast it.
So they were on elves. I played against Runcore, and
Mhm.
he actually had he had an Atraxa in play and everything. It was just like you just never get an attack step now.
Like nice vigilance. Yeah.
He
That's
was very kind. He actually didn't make me go through the effort every turn. He was just like, I don't get to attack. I understand. I was like, thank you.
just a lot of clicks. to go through every single turn. That's good. Yeah, this has been seeing a lot of play in the affinity decks, like we said, lands decks and legacy, but in modern. So I feel like affinity has actually gotten the most cards from what I've seen, or at least been the most accepting of new cards. So, like as you have highlighted here, another new card that they're getting. We talked a little bit about this last week, but Krang Mastermind. So here is an actual affinity card, which is always fun. But it is 8 mana for a 1/4. It's 6 blue affinity for artifacts, and whenever it enters, if you have fewer than 4 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference, and then it gets +1/0 +1/+0 for each other artifact you control. So just a draw engine, which is pretty cool, and it's just a big beater. So I've seen 2, maybe 3 of these in some affinity decks. There's actually one in the no ban list modern challenge, I think, had an affinity deck, and it was playing one of these, or maybe it was a 5/0 or something. But I thought that was fun. But this card I was not as expecting to see a lot of, but it is cool to see it. But that last line of text that gets +1/0 +1/+0 for each other artifact you control, it's just like comes with its own, it's a cranial plating, which is a very strong card. Like just a 2 mana, like 6/4 or bigger that also draws you like 2 or 3 cards. Yeah, that's pretty good. Have you played
Yeah.
at all with Krang?
I have not. I've not played with it. I've not played against it. One thing I do want to say is, and I don't want to dwell on this. I know people hate Universes Beyond, and I know people might look at this and be like, "Turtles garbage." I love looking at this card. Just like I, his like insane smile. I
Mhm.
love that he has like the little well, not little, they're huge, but like the bodysuits that he wears in the background. I love him with like his little guns, like ha 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 ha. I don't know. Like, and this card honestly does feel like to me like the kind of thing where we might have seen it on a Magic card if it wasn't like a turtle set and then
Mhm.
just been like, oh, this guy's cute, like he's kind of funny.
This
And I,
easily
I
could have
feel
been
like,
an Edge of Eternities, easily.
yeah, but this 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 is great to me. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if it would see play or not because it's very similar to Thought Monitor, right?
Mhm.
Except, 2 is a lot more than 1, but
Mhm.
also drawing potentially 4 cards is a lot more than 2. So it's kind of it really wasn't clear to me what was going to happen. I kind of suspected that we would see like 1 to 2 copies of this card, but then like initially I was hearing it wasn't good, and now I do see it showing up in a lot more lists. It I don't know, it reads kind of good to me, and I think it's been working out for people, and I'm definitely excited to get to try it myself. And I've also seen people playing it in some of the surveillance cam decks.
Oh, yeah.
Not very common,
Mhm.
but
Just
might
weld it
chuck
in
one
and
in for
out.
laughs.
That could be pretty sweet. Yeah, it was just funny because I actually purchased like a bunch of these cards, but only for EDH. And then I was like, oh, they're actually good constructed too. Like, sweet. Like, I had like a skateboard. I wanted Surveillance Cam mostly for EDH, like sweet and artifact decks. It was like, oh, I have a copy at least, and I could, if I ever want to play Affinity or something, I could just pull it out of there. That was mostly where I saw the appeal.
Yeah. Like you said, it is big. I mean, not having any form of evasion definitely hurts it, but I can't imagine just like equipping a shadow spear to it and
Mm.
then just like smacking my opponent for 9, and then maybe they block with 1 or 2 things, but they still take some damage. You gain a bunch of life. Even if it dies off, like you've drawn anywhere between like 2 and 4 cards. So like
Yeah, and 4 toughness is pretty big too. Like it's not going to be super easy to kill in combat. And then you could just play it again with your Emery or something to get more value off of it.
true.
Which there you
I
go.
love Emery.
Emery is so sweet. Yeah, I like Emery
Um
as well. Another
yeah, it's
interesting.
really
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say another fun thing with Emery is like surveillance cam has flash, so you can Emery it in on their turn still. It's
Hmm.
so nice.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then you could just have a free cast or free effect, like bring it on your turn, untap Emery again, cast something else, cast another bauble or something. Like just get the free value.
Yeah, just to get Metalcraft or grow your constructs.
I was seeing in the affinity decks in modern also Ravenous Robots, which I see you also have there, which is again not one that I picked up immediately, but it is similar to what's the other 2 mana enchantment? Weapons Manufacturing. So a similar effect as that. So it's 1 in a red for a 2/1 creature. or artifact creature. And whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature token. And then it has red and tap it. Creature tokens you control gain haste. So I thought that was interesting, like another sort of weapons manufacturing or pinnacle emissary type effect. That was kind of cool, except this one is on a creature and also can give all of your 1/1s that you're making, if you're casting all your baubles and mox opals haste, or your Urza Saga constructs give them haste, which obviously we've been talking about how good haste is with like skateboard effects. So this card is pretty cool. I saw one list that had two of these and then two weapons manufacturing as a nice 2/2 split. So I mean the 1/1s don't have evasion like they do for Pinnacle Emissary. So they're just like little 1/1 Memnites basically. But still an interesting card that we'll see if it actually sticks around or not. But
Yeah,
I like it.
I think I think it's good. I know I kind of talked about this last episode. People really like the weapons manufacturing stuff. I really do not like the weapons manufacturing stuff, but I think this does what I actually want to do. Like actually making guys you can attack with and kind of have control over if they're dealing damage or not. You know, the card itself having power and toughness. Like I know you don't really want this to die off, but I do think I think it aligns a bit better with what the deck is trying to do, and it's very possible I'm wrong, but getting to play this, and then maybe you don't have to play, like, 3 engineered explosives, which I personally think are really awkward in that tag.
I always chuckle a little bit when my opponent has a bunch of like mox opals and things and they just play their EE on 0. I'm like, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, they play it 'cause it's just, like, better than Darksteel Relic, but
Mhm.
it's also barely.
Yeah. Yes. This is a cool card. Um, yeah, I agree that it definitely has like the ceiling might not be quite as high as weapons manufacturing, where you can just end up blowing your board and killing your opponent off right, but it feels like the floor is, just even as a 2 mana 2/1, where if you're drawing this on turn 4 and you don't have a bunch of 0 drops in hand, like it's gonna perform a little bit better, which I definitely like. So that that's just, another interesting card, which all of these have been in Affinity, which is pretty cool. But yeah, one last card. Or I guess we have two more cards. We have the Slash Reptile Rampager. This one, Mousen and I are a little bit confused on. I'm not gonna lie. So I am still not sure if this even saw play, and it was in a top 8 deck list from the Modern Showcase Challenge. So this is a 5 mana red creature. It's 3 red for a 7/5, which honestly, just those stats are kind of ridiculous. That's a card, but here we go. But it has Alliance, so whenever another creature you control enters, it does 2 damage to each opponent. And then also, whenever it attacks, create a 2/2 red mutant creature token. So when it attacks, you make a token, you do 2 damage. I don't get it. The deck that we saw it in is like a blue-red wizards deck, which is cool. And it has like Arena of Glory, so you can give it haste, you attack, it makes a 2/2. That's basically 9 damage. I guess you can play your subtlety, do 2 damage. It was playing, what's the 2-drop? It's playing Thunder Trap Trainer and Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, Mapson is showing it on the screen here if you're watching on YouTube. So interesting finisher. We'll wait and see to see if it continues to see play. But maybe. Who knows? It
Yeah,
was just kind of an
so
interesting one.
I really kind of wonder if this is just, like, this player's favorite character from TMNT or something.
This is
Like,
the Poison Dart
I don't
Frog
know.
effect.
Yeah. So this is a player who has put up a number of results before and has definitely played some cool, interesting decks. I think they are basically always in the blue-red space, and, like, they definitely like to explore things. And really that's the only thing I can think of, because I kinda think there's just, like, better creatures for everything this card does. And granted, it does a lot of things, but, like, if you're just looking for, like, a big attacking guy, like, I think you can do better. I don't think you're looking to do anything with, like, the 2 damage from things entering, because you're not actually a very heavy creature deck. So, but if, let's pretend your goal is to combo off with that somehow. There's cheaper effects that do the same thing, and then, like, attacking and making a 2/2 is fine, but, like, I don't know, it's, like, not worth 5 mana. Just, like, nothing about this card seems playable, and at least not in Modern or Legacy. Like, maybe you could play it in Standard, but I don't even really think that's true.
I feel like in standard, your opponent's going to have some like 48/48 creature for all the counters being doubled and whatnot. That 7/5 is probably not going to get there. But like I see
Yeah.
the third path iconoclast on the sideboard as well. So if you get to turn 6, like you have this in play, you have that in play, you cast a few non-creature spells, and you're basically a storm deck. So
True. True.
yeah, that was an interesting one. And then so another creature that we saw was the slash card. Do you want to introduce that one?
I mean, that's the one we just talked about.
Oh, sorry, I meant Splinter, Master Splinter,
Uh,
or
I think
is
you
that the
mean
card I'm
Super
thinking of?
Shredder.
Super Shredder, which is yeah, Super Shredder. That's the one. The one in a
Uh,
black creature.
I
Yeah,
didn't
there you
have
go.
it pulled up yet. I'm failing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So yeah, go
Super
ahead.
Shredder. Shout out to Andreas Peterson,
Hmm.
Eco Baronin for this one. One in a black for a legendary creature, Mutant Ninja Human. It is a 1/1 with Menace. And a 1/1 might not be impressive, but whenever another permanent leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Super Shredder. So, few things. One, piece of Turtles lore. Did you know that despite the fact Shredder is like always represented as the bad guy, he was never intended to be a lasting villain for the Turtles? Like, he was not supposed to be their archenemy.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, now you do. But anyways, they clearly failed. He's huge. But yeah, so Super Shredder gets huge because when it says a permanent leaves the battlefield, it does mean any permanent. It's not just permanents you control, right? So any fetch land from either side of the field, any Dothy Voidwalker, a Mishra's Bauble, any creature dying, any creature getting bounced, it gets really big really fast. And this card has been showing up. Andreas Peterson top aided a challenge playing this really cool mono black deck that was built kind of around this and Moon Shadow, which are very similar in their effects. I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah, mono black in quotation marks. So this mono black deck with Underground Seas and Daze, which was pretty cool. So that was an interesting aspect of this deck that I really enjoyed. They put Daze
Maybe I
into a
can't pull it up.
yeah, so basically it's a standard mono black shell, and it only uses Daze for the effect of a permanent leaving the battlefield, so it makes your creature bigger. But also, obviously, Daze, everyone knows, is a really powerful card in Legacy and a really good tempo card. So that was, oh, there it is. Yeah, here we are. So just really just trying to get your opponent dead, but having two, like the Moonshadow, which has Menace, the Super Shredder also has Menace. You have Nethergoyfs, which are going to get huge. Obviously, Barrowgoyf's really big. It doesn't play Dark Ritual, right? Yeah. Oh, it does. It has 3 Dark
It
Rituals.
does.
So you can have a turn 1 Barrowgoyf. You have your Dothy Voidwalker, which is another like 3/2 creature with evasion. Also really good with, discard effects and just disrupting your opponent in general. But super aggressive deck. Probably gets like turn 4, turn 5 kills, if not much quicker than that. So I thought this was really interesting. Have you played against this deck much?
I have not. Did watch Andreas did put out a video of him playing it, so I did watch it, and it was pretty cool to see. It's I mean it's just really fast like you would expect. If you're able to go turn 1 Nethergoyf, turn 2 Moonshadow, Mishra's Bauble you, Thought sees you, then like your Moonshadow can already be a 4/4, your Nethergoyf's already pretty large,
Hmm.
and then, your Super Shredder comes down the next turn and just starts getting large as well. Like, it kinda snowballs. I guess snowball might not be the right word, but it gets really powerful really quick and backed up by Thoughtseize and backed up by Daze, which a lot of people, I'm sure, didn't see coming at first, is huge. And you can also have the games where you go like turn 1 Dark Ritual, like Nethergoyf Moonshadow Thoughtseize you
Yeah.
bauble. It's like, okay, well, how is your opponent supposed to be in this game? And if they do anything, you're gonna daze them. So I am excited to see if this continues. So it put up a ton of results at first because Andreas won a challenge, and then I know Mike Reed challenged with it. And I think it might have won another challenge that same week. So I'm very curious to see can it keep those kinds of numbers. I've also heard people talk about splashing red in it instead of blue. Now that the secret about Daze is out, You could add Dragon's Rage Channeler, which will also help grow your Moon Shadow. It gives you access to Lightning Bolt if you want to be, if that's a thing that you're interested in. I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a really, really strong deck. I know our friend Tom in our local store plays a black red aggro deck that's very similar to this. That he's not on Super Shredder yet, but I could definitely see him getting some and being on it. So one of my theories about Legacy is that the Legacy decks, not to the extreme of Vintage, but Legacy decks are built to be Legacy decks. That if you show up with something that is not a typical Legacy strategy, you can do really well. So that one of the strategies being having a lot of creatures with still a little bit of disruption, so you're not just dead to the really strong Legacy effects. But I remember, like a core memory I have is a long time ago, I played Maverick for a long time in Legacy. And Maverick was a deck that it was good because it was good against Legacy decks. It was good against Delver. You had your Thalia, your Wasteland strategy, but I played against my friend who was playing a standard deck at the time, and they destroyed me. It was not even close. It felt really bad for playing Maverick against I can't believe I can't just beat this standard deck. And what it was is I was playing 4 Swords of Plowshares as my removal spells, and that was it. Like my other ways of getting rid of creatures were just having a bigger Knight of the Reliquary, which doesn't always work. And wastelanding my opponent, which if they're playing a standard deck and they're playing basics, it doesn't work. I feel like that's a strong strategy here. And you see that with the energy decks as well, is there's a lot of decks that only have 4 to 6 removal spells. And if your removal spells don't line up against their turn 1 Moonshadow or excuse me, or Netherglyph or their Dauthi Voidwalker, it's going to be cantripping, trying to find your one, Fatal Push or Lightning Bolt or something, and it's just going to be too late. You're just going to be dead. So just the deck really keeps you on your back foot until it's just too late, and then your Moon Shadow's a 7/7 or 6/6, or the Shredder is even bigger because your fetch lands or wastelands or everything are just growing your opponent's creatures. So it could be really scary. Just play against a
Yeah.
bunch of creatures. So it's a cool deck. Yeah.
I have also had that same thought about legacy decks, by the way.
Hmm.
And I remember I've actually played the old modern Rug Scapeshift deck, with remands and stuff,
Hmm.
against a few legacy decks, and it's just not been close. I don't know if you've ever remanded a Force of Will, but it's
Oh,
surprisingly effective too. And they're
yeah.
like, okay, pitch my only blue card. You're like, remanded? They're like,
And you draw a
mm.
card. It's like a 10 for 1. It's like a 3 for 1. That's great.
Yeah, play against miracles. What can they do? You just make your land drops.
Yeah. Yeah, nice
Counterbalance?
counterbalance.
How many 4 drops you have?
Here's a
Oh,
mountain.
you have 2 Jace? That's not enough.
That's some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards. Are there any other cards that you have seen or really excited you that you saw? I know we talked about
I
quite a
think you
few.
had another on your list.
Oh, I did. I'll just briefly mention it. So that was Leonardo Cutting Edge. Again, this is another one that I was not expecting to see. Oh, there you go. You got it. So this is 2 mana 1/1, so 1 and a white. It has Sneak for a white, which is very similar to Ninjutsu, if you had not seen that. So it has lifelink, and then whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So similar to is it a Johnny Pridemate? Is that the card
Yes.
that does that? Yeah, so very similar effect, but you could sneak it in for a white. This was in a white green energy shell in modern that I saw this in. I like the sneak effect actually in these Goddess Soul Ocelot Pride decks because you can get more Enter the Battlefield triggers, which is pretty neat. Especially when you have Starfield Shepherd or Bright Glass Gearhulk. So I imagine attacking with one of those. This isn't a Heliod combo too, which is the real reason why it's pretty good here, and Birthing Ritual. But it's just this is just a solid value deck with your typical energy game plan of Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride. And then eventually you can just win with Heliod. But so there's just kind of a cool strategy. I don't know. They're playing 4, so obviously they really like the effect. We'll see if it continues or not. Obviously not the most popular deck, but still it's cool to have some powerful cards, which kind of as a whole, we've mentioned 8 cards, 7 cards. Let's see,
Yeah, there's
1,
actually another card that I'm interested in.
7, 8. Yeah,
I have to figure out I have to try to find it real quick. It's one of the Michelangelos.
is that the blue card, Michelangelo?
No, it is, here we go.
Oh, the green.
Yeah, so Michelangelo Improviser, and I haven't actually seen it show up really, but I'm interested in this one. So it's 3 and a green for a legendary creature. It's a mutant ninja turtle, and it's got sneak for 2 green green. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card and or a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And I'm vaguely interested in this. I know there's a lot of ways to sneak things into play, but this makes me kind of think about the old like of green fairish natural order strategies we used to have, where you would just like play like noble hierarchs and days and force of will and just kind of like natural order and like a progenitus or whatever.
Hmm.
I kind of am interested in seeing like, could you do something again where you're kind of ramping into this, you attack, maybe you attack with like a Birds of Paradise, and then you get to sneak in Michelangelo. And then when you sneak him in, you get to put in like an Atraxa from your hand, right? And then just keep playing this fair game. And maybe that's not good. In fact, it's probably not good.
Yeah, I was going to
But
say there's
I
another 4 mana green card that you talked about that also does it, but from your deck.
Yeah, so the difference here is like when natural order gets countered, you like lose your creature too,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case with this, and you can keep going.
Hmm.
And if you've already put in an Atraxa, if we're gonna live in magical Christmas land, then you probably have a creature and a land you can put in. Think of the value.
Oh, it's and. It's not even or. Look at
Yeah.
that. Put it both. Yeah, I mean, then you could play Caracas, then you bounce it back to your hand, and then you sneak it in again. There you go.
Yeah. Like I
I
do
wish,
just think
yeah.
you can kind of like play this on turn 2 or 3, and just like now you have this kind of threat of just like, yes, it's not the same thing as natural order because you do have to have the card in hand, but also just like a 4/4 is kind of fine, right? Like it's
Hmm.
hard to deal with, at least in Legacy. Like, do they have to have Revolt for Fatal Push? Which I understand is like not impossible. Decks are built to do that, right? But like it is a cost to like they have to have that, or Lightning Bolt doesn't hit it. So like if they're in red, they have to have Unholy Heat, which a lot of decks don't, or they have a limited number. So I just kind of think in a world where like you board out natural order against the tempo decks, but
Hmm.
this is a card that you could leave in against them, and then you're also happy to just have a 4/4 against them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if we could see it in something like a Sylvan Plug deck that is running Ancient Tomb. So maybe instead of the mana dorks, you have just bigger threats. And you can put in some of your other big green creatures there. Or yeah, I mean, I kind of like that. I kind of wish I had like Trample or something, but it just kind of has to be blocked, which is nice. So yeah, we'll see. See if that's go see play or not. But I
I
did
think
play
somebody
Sylvan Plug for a
trophied
little
with
bit.
it an
Oh, really?
amulet, and I don't have my hands on a copy, which is a shame because I'm playing some amulet this weekend.
Hmm.
If I can get my hands on a copy between now and then, I might mess around with it
Yeah.
just
Could also
for just
could also be like I know this is kind of a meme in general, but like in a Nick Fit deck, obviously, like you could say most things are, but I feel like this one, 4 mana is pretty strong in Nick Fit anyway, because if you sack your Veteran Explorer to a Phyrexian, what's the land that makes 2 black?
Phyrexian Tower.
Phyrexian Tower. That gives you 4 mana. You can put this into play, or it just kind of gives you kind of a bridge between your top end and the 4 mana that you have. Could be interesting, but and you know that deck likes putting lands into play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's also been some recent tournaments that have been pretty big. Most of these were online events, but we had a Modern Showcase Challenge that happens recently. So that had 289 people, which is pretty huge, and there was a lot of Boris energy. That's at least what my takeaway from that was. So a lot of Boris energy, but aside from that, it honestly was pretty diverse. There were, and just looking at the top 32 here, there were 5 Boros Energy decks, but I believe 3 of them were, or I guess 4 of them were in the top 12. But I mean, we see a Hollow One deck in second place, which is pretty cool. But Boros Energy still top dog, still good after all these after all these years. Which not
Arguably
really
top dog in
surprising.
Legacy too.
Yeah, right. Which we'll get to that when we look at their legacy results. But energy, it was
Kind of
too good for
nice
standard,
and
so they put
cheap.
it into modern, and now it's really good in it's been really good in modern, and now it's really good in legacy. It's if you get energy cards, you can play them in every format. Well, all the eternal formats, not Pioneer.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's not even a format, so it's
right.
fine.
True.
I didn't look at this Grixis Reanimator deck. Have you?
I have not.
It's
Oh, it's
the
the standard
same. Yeah.
reanimator. Yeah, your Born Oculus Psychic Frog deck. There's
What?
an elf deck. Well, this is a
This is a nice surprise.
devoted druid deck. In what place was that? Like between 16th and
25th, 6-3,
25th?
which is like a respectable finish. Yeah, so this is like an elf deck. I mean, I've seen decks like this. It's been a while. So for those curious, you're playing basically the elves you would expect. So Elvish Mystics, Heritage Druids, Llanowar Elves, Quarian Rangers, Sylvan Safekeepers, Elvish War Masters, Priestly Titanias, Eladamri, Corvic Dolls, Azuris, one formidable speaker, but then you're also playing Devoted Druid and Vizier of Remedies. You have a lot of ways to find your combo pieces through Nature's Rhythm and Court of Calling. And then you also have like Agatha's Soul Cauldron. You get to play Cavern of Souls, which is great. And Devoted Druid works really well in elf decks because one, you want to make mana and dump out your hand as fast as possible, right? But also it goes infinite not just with Vizier of Remedies, but it also goes infinite with Azuri. So for those who might not remember, Azuri is a 3 mana elf, and you can pay 5 to give elf creatures you control +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. So when you make the mana from Devoted Druid, you can then give it +3/+3, and then you can untap it and retap it again more times because now it's got more power. So if you have two of them out, you can just like make all your guys infinitely large.
Yeah, that's a cool strategy. I know you've tried that out a few different times at locals and whatnot. Always a fan of Devoted Druid. Um,
Same.
yeah, there's only one Amulet Titan deck. Yeah, only one Amulet Titan, top 32.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is hard to have too many of them in the top, like near the tops of these more important events because it is so miserable to play online. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had to get ready for Modern. I can't remember what it was for, but I was like, okay, it's time to play Modern. Let me warm up the Amulet Brain. And was like one match in, and I was like, why did I do this? I hate this. Like, I'm somebody, I like playing on Moto. Like, I'm not somebody who complains about the Moto interface. Like, I genuinely enjoy it. That's a thing I do to unwind. But when I play Amulet, which is a thing I like to do in paper, I want to murder someone.
Yeah, so that was the modern event. That was pretty cool. There was also a no ban list modern event that happened recently. I know we talked a lot about that last time, but there weren't any like big changes or any like new decks that I haven't seen before in the no ban list modern event. But it was relatively diverse, which was cool. Nadu took it down, as you'd expect. But there was also a cool deck in second, which I actually liked, which was Emery Glaring Fleshraker deck. If you could bring that up. Yeah, so this is just mono blue artifacts. So you're playing Fleshraker and Sensei's Divining Top, but you also have Skull Clamp in there, which is also good with Glaring Fleshraker. But then you just have a bunch of either draw spells or counter spells. So you have your 4 Thought Casts, but then 4 Force of Negation, 4 Metallic Rebuke, 4 Mental Misstep, which is just kind of stop your opponent from doing whatever they're doing, and then until you can finally win with the Glaring Fleshraker. So it's just an interesting combo. Oh, I didn't even see the One Ring. Oh, my favorite card. I really don't like that card.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I think this
interesting.
deck makes a lot of sense. It is pretty cool.
I also liked there was an energy deck. So, as you said, energy good in all formats. Energy deck in this format, which is basically like stock energy, except it has Amped Raptor. Um, and I think that's it, and the One Ring, but obviously. But there's like one Vindicate in the deck, which I think is hilarious.
Kills anything
Kills anything.
except the One Ring.
Yeah, exactly. But
Um,
yeah, just anything's a problem, kill it. There's a Spider Punk in there.
yeah.
So their
You could
energy's
have
still good.
Breach and Eighth.
And some living in decks. A lot of Belcher decks, mono red Belcher, as opposed to the blue Belcher we typically see in modern, but just mono red, more rituals, more aggressive.
Yeah, Simian Spirit Guide.
Yeah, very good. Is that actually Kethis combo in 17?
Yeah,
It is, with Basim and Hope of Gilper. Interesting. That's very cool.
which I'm going to be trying some Basim and normal modern again soon because
Mhm.
there's like a black version of the Sewer Valence cam deck where you're playing just like a more fair, like mid-rangey deck, right? Kind of like you play your Basims, you play your Fatal Push, you play like 2 copies of Tezzeret, and you just like play this fair deck that can also just be like, whoops, I
Mhm.
killed you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know there was some other Sewer Valence Cam modern decks. There's some like breach style decks that have been going around, like
Yes.
Rug Breach, which is really cool because if you have Emery, a Sewer Valence Cam, and either a Mox Opal or Mox Amber, and a grinding station, you can then have the same sort of style of effect that you had with Underworld Breach, just being able to sack it over and over again and mill out your opponent,
Yep.
which is cool.
I'm actually in the middle of a league with it right now.
Oh, there you go. You could have recorded it.
No,
Maybe next
I
time.
could not have.
Yeah, so those are the modern events. There's been a few legacy events as well recently. So we had a legacy showcase challenge with 238 people. So this one, uh, yeah, I looked at the results and I cried a little bit, just a little bit. So the results are mostly, at least in my mind, what stuck out is it's mostly the One Ring and Energy. Specifically, the deck that got first place here was just Tron, just colorless Tron. And I was so excited when we were seeing less Mystic Forge, but not anymore. But this is a very online deck. So this is very Mystic Forge style of deck, but it has 4 Candelabra of Taunos, which is like a $3,000 card. Which I love seeing this. It's so good because like nobody's gonna play this in paper, or I would love to see it in paper. But it's just jam threat after threat and hope you have a planar nexus, because if you don't, your mana's terrible. So it's playing, as opposed to your typical Mystic Forge mana base where you have planar nexus and then just towers and Urza sagas. Like this is running the full gambit of Urza lands to try to make as much mana as possible, and then it's just straight payoffs. Karns, your One Rings, your Ugins, there's an Emrakul in there. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this? Like, does this bring you joy?
It brings me some amount of amusement because it is just like absurdly expensive. It's like people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh, I can't afford Legacy. Do you know how much duels and forcefuls cost?" And it's like, haha, that's not the expensive stuff. Try being the colorless deck. 4 grid monoliths, four candelabras. But this deck it's amusing to me. I think it's pretty decent. Like, it doesn't make me happy because I really hate looking at Kozilek's command.
Hmm.
But I think it's funny. Everyone hates on the One Ring. I feel like Kozilek's command is just such a mistake.
I agree.
But I do think it's good. I think Kozilek's command is great. I think Trinisphere is really good against a lot of the format. Obviously, the One Ring is very good. And I kind of just like the thought of being like, okay, if you don't wasteland me, I'm just going to start playing threats on like turn 2, and I'm just going to jam a threat every turn until you die, right?
Hmm.
Because like turn 2, if you have Planar Nexus um, and Urza's Tower, you can start slamming One Rings or Karns or whatever else. And also, like, I don't know, you can make jokes about playing the Urza's lands, but at worst, even if you don't have full Tron, then they help the workshop.
Hmm.
And that is really powerful. And it's pretty easy for you to get Metalcraft because you have your 4 candelabras, which obviously work with the workshops. And the excess mana is actually really important because 1, you're drawing a lot of cards with the One Ring. 2, it makes your Karns really impactful. 3, it makes your Kozilek's commands really impactful. You know, I don't want to say I like it because I am a big Tron hater in Modern, but historically, I have liked playing Tron style decks in Legacy, and I don't think this would be an exception.
Yeah. It's it's pretty strong. There's also a lot of ways, like you mentioned, Wasteland as the primary reason that a lot of these decks, like the primary opponent, I guess, for a lot of these decks. But this is playing 2 Sorcerer Spyglass, 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Disruptor Flute. Like it's probably that's the first thing it's going to do is just name Wasteland, and then you're going to have to hope to kill it before it starts casting its big spells. So that's it knows what it's going to lose to, and it's trying to play through it, which is pretty good.
Also, Karn is just, I think, really good right now. Because it's like we were talking about the cam decks being showing up a lot, and this card is really good against that. And I think there's a good amount of combo right now, like a lot of people in Storm, and Karn is really good against that, as is Trinisphere. And just like playing the One Ring is good against the tempo decks. And like I just think you have a lot of cards that are just very good in these matchups you're gonna see. And a lot of times it's like, okay, if you can just resolve 1 or 2 of them, like you can maybe just ride that to victory, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I also want to point out in this event there was again a lot of energy. So there was 5 energy decks, in the top 32. But a lot of blue black tempo or mid range is probably all grouped together in one deck. But it continues to be a very strong and very frequently played deck, but not necessarily this like oppressing deck that we saw with like blue black reanimator or some of the other earlier iterations of the style of like most popular deck, which is a good show for a healthy format. Is this deck that is the most popular still probably has like a 52 or 51% win percentage, and some of the decks that are really good against it, like this energy deck, is traditionally really good against blue black tempo, is also doing really well. So it's like even though we're seeing a lot of one strategy, it's like 7 copies in the top 32 of Dimir Tempo. It's like that seems fine. I'm fine with that. Like if we're gonna have a best deck, I definitely don't mind it being this like blue black kind of disrupt you a little bit, but the games are still gonna go relatively long. It's not gonna kill you in like 4 turns. So I think that's fine. At least personally, I like that.
Yeah, I think the format's honestly in a good spot. I know some people don't like it. Some people say there's too much combo. Some people say I hate that like some of these decks have such lopsided matchups. Like the cat decks, like we said,
Hmm.
are really good against tempo, and Oops is really good against said energy decks.
Hmm.
Now, you do have your matchups like that, but part of tournaments is being able to metagame. And yes, you're not always going to be able to predict perfectly, right? People can show up with whatever they like and mess you up. But, I think it's fun. I think it's nice that it feels like a variety of decks can win the event. And like, yes, we definitely had our repeats here, but we also just like in this top 32, we had one, two, three, four, five. We had 13 like one of archetypes. Like, I think that is a good sign. And that's not to say things couldn't be better. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if Oops went away, that would make things better. And we do actually have a ban announcement coming next week. So maybe that'll happen. I doubt it. I would really like it though. But yeah, I do think the format's in a good space. I think Modern's in a good space, though I would love to see some unbans to just kind of shake things up. But yeah, Magic's good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Like last time we talked about the metagame for Legacy, we mentioned how Death and Taxes was doing really well, and here we don't see a ton of Death and Taxes deck, but we still see the energy decks. So like we're seeing a lot of different decks. Like have their weekend where like that blue black or that mono black aggressive deck was like had a really strong weekend, and then it'll come up like maybe some of the white removal decks will come up and be really good against that, and then maybe some of the combo decks will come up, and then your hyper interactive blue black or mono black aggro will come up to kind of counter that. So we're definitely seeing some turn. And the last major event that we saw was the Legacy RC Super Qualifier. This one I want to give a shout out because again a lot of energy and Dimir tempo, but specifically 14th place. You see what I'm seeing? Espervile. It's that's my buddy Hunting Jorgensen from the Espervile
No,
Discord.
that's my buddy.
Our buddy, but love seeing Espervile. Obviously, I myself am a huge fan. And especially if you see a meta that has a lot of blue black tempo, you have a pretty good matchup there. So you're happy to see it. You noticed they play a lot of Angs, which I am not on board with. Maybe someday. I've tried it a few times and I still cannot convince myself to play the card. It's really good. Also, this is pretty common in a few other Felia decks as well. But the main deck consigns are something that I've been playing for a little while now, and there are just some really cool interactions that you get with consign that I feel like I find new ways to use that card every tournament I play in. Like this past weekend, I warped into Quantum Riddler, attacked with my Felia, and exiled my opponent's creature, and then was able to consign both the warp and the return trigger at the end step, which was pretty cool. So they both were permanent. Or the Grist minus ability is a reflexive trigger, which is pretty interesting. So they minus and they sacrifice a creature, and then if they sacrifice a creature, then the trigger goes on the stack, which is another cool triggered ability. So that was fun. And then actually against the mono red Sneakacho opponent, they played a turn 1 or turn 2 Chandra Torch of Defiance, which is a very hard card to deal with. You can't counter it. It's a 6-drop Chandra that eventually kills you. But I was able to attack with Felia and just consign the return trigger once I exiled it. So just another way of dealing with probably some permanents. But yeah, just a cool deck. I could talk about Esperville for probably a few hours. Maybe that'll be a different episode where we just talk about Esperville.
Yeah, no, not tonight.
Not
We've actually
tonight.
already gone quite long.
We did. So that being said, like a final announcement. So there's a team event coming up at On the Draw in Pottstown if you're in the area. That is Modern Legacy and Vintage. That is happening on March 22nd. But with that, any last words, Maps then?
No, just as a reminder, if you stuck till the end, well, one, thank you. We appreciate it.
We really do.
But two, please don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Ratings are nice. We've got currently a perfect 5-star rating though. So if you're going to give anything less than that, don't.
I hope you mean it.
And also, if you've listened on Spotify, don't be afraid to just let it play out on YouTube also, and please subscribe on YouTube. Even if you don't even watch on YouTube, even if you listen on apps, subscribing on YouTube is huge. Costs nothing for you, costs a lot for us. YouTube puts ads in the videos one way or the other. One way we get money out of it, and one way we don't. And would you rather give your money to Google or would you rather give your money to us? Actually, it's not even your money.
It's not even our money. Yeah. Would you rather give YouTube's money? All right. So with that being said, thanks for joining us. If you're looking for the podcast, you can find us on YouTube at Eternal Witnesses Podcast. You can go to ewcast.com. We have all of our links there to find us wherever you want to find us. So thanks for joining us. See you next time.
See you in 2 weeks.